I'm a vampire. Oh my God, could it be? And I was like, girl, come on. You might be wondering why I am coming to you from the exotic location of my lounge room. Well, this is Marley, and he is 15 and a half in 9 days. And the poor little chap has been unwell, and yesterday we thought it was game over, so I'm not inclined to leave him alone unless it's to duck up to the shops to get something. So that's why we're filming at home and not somewhere more exciting. This is my June reading vlog, and these are the books that I'm supposed to be getting through. And this was determined pre-health crisis and pre-food poisoning for me. There was one book that I had actually forgotten to add to the June TBR list, which was The Muddle-Headed Wombat. This is a book that I actually don't know yet. I haven't opened it if it's word for word, the audiobook, but as a little kid, I had one cassette of The Muddle-Headed Wombat, and I used to listen to it every single night. And so a couple of years ago, I found that audiobook on, I think it was iTunes or Audible, I can't remember. And I lost my shit when I found that. And if I really can't sleep now, I'll get out Muddle-Headed Wombat and I'll fall asleep. And the interesting thing was, obviously I only had one of a 2-part cassette, because the first half of the audiobook, I'm like, I know this story so well. And then it gets to the second half and I'm like, what the hell is this? But I want to see if this is word for word. I picked this up in a secondhand bookstore, and I love The Muddle-Headed Wombat. And let's be real, it has been a horrendous couple of days. If you're not really sure what I'm talking about, I mean, obviously I already mentioned with Marley, but check out my editing vlog and you get a bit more insight. Who couldn't use a little bit of a comfort book after a couple of days like we've had? The reason I chose the books that I chose for June is because I have DNF'd, so not finished, a lot of books lately, and a lot of them have been really heavy content, and I just wanted something lighter. And I mean, I haven't exactly chosen all light books, but the one I'm really hanging out for is Celeste Barber's Challenge Accepted, which I haven't got to yet, but I'm really hoping that Celeste is going to save me. But I haven't actually started it yet, so let's start with what I have been reading. Mr. Darcy Vampire. I am not an Austen junkie by any stretch. I don't even know that I've actually read most of her books. I've certainly read Pride and Prejudice, and I think I've read Emma. Can't remember. Anyway, I haven't really read a lot of the either Pride and Prejudice knockoffs or the continuations. The only one I have read is Mr. Darcy Takes a Wife, and I read that a while ago, and it's a little bit like Austen smut, but I remember enjoying it for some insane reason, and I can't remember why, so I've ordered it on Amazon, and it went to my parents' house in Sydney, so I'll pick it up at the end of the month. But what I'm trying to say is I'm by no means an aficionado on Austen continuations. So I saw this in a secondhand bookstore and was deeply amused by the concept of Mr. Darcy as a vampire, and particularly the idea of Colin Firth as a vampire, because I kind of always think of him as like, I don't know, but just the idea of him as a vampire is, I just always think of him as this kind of polite, mumbly British guy, so I guess kind of like who he is in Love Actually, and just to have him being like, I'm a vampire, just cracks me up. I'm about a third of the way through, and you can see I've had some thoughts. Honestly, I think I'll finish it, but only because I'm mildly curious about the premise of this book. This book is clearly trying to be a paranormal romance, but Mr. Darcy so far is kind of absent, and the Elizabeth we know from Pride and Prejudice, who is headstrong, intelligent, well, she doesn't really exist anymore. This book is written by an author called Amanda Grange, and I believe she has written multiple Austen continuations or reworkings. And I also think she is a self-published author, so I mean, I'm kind of keen to support another self-published author, but the writing is a little bit clunky, and it's like she's desperately trying to fuse Austen with her work, and it doesn't really work because not enough of an attempt has been made to write in an Austen-like style. And so when she takes either direct quotes or things that are paraphrased so closely that they could be a quote and used it to kind of connect the two stories, it doesn't really flow, and it's almost jarring when you have those because they don't flow together. So let me find an example. God, my voice has been so gravelly since the laryngitis. So this is right at the beginning of the book. It's when they've just gotten married. When they came out of the vestry, Elizabeth distinctly heard her mother whispering in exultant tones, "Oh, Mr. Bennet, just think of it. Our Elizabeth is now Mrs. Darcy. Oh my goodness, 10,000 a year." Like, that doesn't even really touch it. There are so many like, "Oh, my nerves," and things like that, and they just don't smooth in well. So yeah, so far it's just a bit clunky and nothing really has happened. So far, Mr. Darcy has dragged Elizabeth across England to Dover and into Paris and up into the Alps, and I'm very impressed by how much traveling their horses are able to do in a single day. But I mean, that's kind of all that's happened so far, and we've met a number of his Parisian family slash friends, and Elizabeth has overheard a number of comments kind of basically like, "Why did you marry her? You've made a mistake. You shouldn't have done it." But she never hears why he shouldn't have done it, and she never makes him explain. He just goes, "Well, they're just having their opinion," and she goes, "Oh, okay." And that's just so not how Elizabeth would respond. Even Catherine de Bourgh shows up in the Alps and surprises them when Elizabeth is trying to seduce her husband because they haven't consummated their marriage after a number of days. And Catherine de Bourgh just serves the same purpose she did in Pride and Prejudice, which she just expresses her, irritation that Darcy has married Elizabeth, and again says it's not too late, you can still marry Anne, and then she disappears. And poor Elizabeth just wants to get laid. And you know what? After reading Mr. Darcy Takes a Wife, I kind of hope Elizabeth does get laid. The next book that was on my TBR that I'm going to talk about is Sarah Gay Forden's The House of Gucci, which I have done a whole separate review of, which I will link down below. I DNF'd this book. I really only started reading it because I know they're making a movie about it, and because I found it on my bookshelf and I was like, well, what do you know? And the front cover says a sensational story of murder, madness, glamour, and greed. And this book ain't it. This book is a very well written, well researched business history and prolonged family history. And I can see that if you took bits and pieces out of this, that this would make a fantastic movie. Very Bold and the Beautiful, a lot of scandal. But I mean, the front cover is not at all what this book is. So life's too short. Then we had Cassandra Clare's City of Bones, which is one of the Shadowhunter Mortal Instrument series. It's the first one. And this was my first experience with Cassandra Clare, and I've mostly listened to this as an audiobook, but I actually bought it because I love this book cover. And I love that there are character illustrations inside. I think that's really incredible. But I know as a self-published author how expensive it is to publish, let alone to include illustrations. I will do a review for this book, so what I will just say is that generally I enjoyed it. There are a lot of YA tropes in it. I really liked the wit and humour and intelligence of Jace. I found Clary at times a little difficult to like. But I really enjoyed the banter between the two of them, But there were times when, so for instance, when they are rescuing Simon, where I felt like the banter kind of took away from the tension that should have been there, because they should have been just trying to get the hell out of there or trying to run, and instead they were kind of arguing with each other and having their banter back and forth. So that did affect the way I felt about the book. I still liked it because I enjoyed I enjoyed the way they communicated with each other, and I enjoyed their chemistry. But in the same breath, there were times where I was like, shouldn't you be running away? My primary issue with Clary is that sometimes she cottons on really, really quickly, and other times she's a bit dense. My primary thought of Clary being exceptionally dense at times was probably in relation to who her father is, and it was only bleedingly obvious based on what other characters had expressly told her, but she didn't work it out for at least 3/4 of the book. And then finally she's like, oh my God, could it be? And I was like, girl, come on. The books I still have to go are Celeste Barber's Challenge Accepted, Growing Up Queer in Australia, and Queenie, and hopefully I'll get to do The Muddle-Headed Wombat. I did also start another audiobook called A Man Called Uwe, and I have kind of struggled with the concept of doing a TBR list and a TBR vlog because I'm such a mood reader, and I mean, I guess that's kind of like how all of us end up with such full bookshelves, because you're like, oh my God, I want to read that next. And then you walk in somewhere else and you're like, no, I want to read this next. So I'm trying to stick to the list. Obviously, we've had some distractions. Hopefully, things will stay on the improve, in which case I will hopefully get to read more of these books and report back at the end of the month. But if things don't go well, then I don't know. I've also downloaded Scrivener, and I want to try dabbling with that a little bit. So that is also going to take up some time this month, because I've got about 40 pages of book 4 of the Phoenix series written already on Word, and potentially I'd like to do that on Scrivener instead. I do find the Word documents become a bit of a jumble after a while, and I've just sent book 3 off to the editor, and I think he'll be getting to that in the next couple of weeks, so I'll probably have that back by the end of July, and I'm trying to be more efficient and effective in everything that I'm doing, but some things take priority. As I mentioned, my books are the Phoenix series. So this is book 1 in the Phoenix series, The Hunted. This is book 2, A Night Rises. They are YA series that borders on new adult. It is a story of magic, of werewolves, vampires. So if you've enjoyed, oh, does that sound interesting, does it? If you've enjoyed Harry Potter, or you've enjoyed the Mortal Instrument series, or you've enjoyed maybe Percy Jackson, or Twilight, I think you will enjoy these books, so definitely check them out. I know I've got them in the wrong order, but The Hunted is available on ebook now, and that's on sale, and it should be on sale everywhere, but places like Amazon do add their own markup sometimes. But it should be on sale everywhere for less than $1. So definitely check this one out, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and then want to see what happens in the rest of the series. I'm very hopeful that book 3 and 4 will be released this year. So let's see how we go. Hit myself in the chin.